All right. What do you say? Should we go and get started?
I'm showing a thumbs up without a camera on.
All right. Awesome. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining. It's really great to see the number of attendees that we got joining up here. My name's Evan Golden. I'm the Director of Engineering here at Trundl. I also run our professional services and our Agile transformation services. We're an Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner, Trundl, and I'm joined here today by joined here today by Tom Harris, and Tom is, I think, the CTO of Old Street Solutions. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah. One of the team here. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Tom, Old Street Solutions is one of the more popular marketplace vendors, marketplace partners, I should say, and one of the add-ons that you may have heard from them is custom charts for Jira. So what we're going to do today is I got literally 3 slides, and the slides are to including this one, and the slides are to just walk through some context around Essential Safe. For those that may or may not be familiar with it, we'll just go through some key components at a very high level. The third slide is just talking about some prerequisite configurations that you would need for the solution that we're going to demo. Then I'm going to dig into an out-of-the-box Jira Software premium solution that you can implement with advanced roadmaps for your Essential Safe, and go over some of the built-in reporting. And then what I want to do is turn it over to Tom here, and Tom's going to dig into dashboard reporting with some of the out-of-the-box gadgets, as well as custom charts for Jira for how you can augment and report on all those KPIs. So let's go ahead and get moving for that. All right, cool. So Essential Safe, it's basically like the foundation, right? It's that entry level of your safe configuration. You can build upon it, but what we're focusing on here is Essential Safe. And the second object from the top there that says Agile Release Train. So basically what an Agile Release Train is a collection of Agile teams. It's a grouping of Agile teams. It usually makes up about 50 to 125 people. And each one of your teams are 3 to 10 people. So you get a bunch of teams working together. And at that level, you have this group called product management, and they manage this product backlog, which could be a Kanban board if you think about it, and they manage the features in that level. And for the sake of the Atlassian lingo, the features can be synonymous to epics in Jira. Okay, and those features then get broken down into individual or multiple stories, I should say, and the stories are then assigned to teams, and each one of those teams would have their own backlog with their stories, and they would be, they would have the whole collection of roles of product owners, Scrum Masters, and developers. But in Safe, it's super important that we can synchronize to some kind of cadence on these, working on these stories and features. So what Safe has is what's called a program increment. A program increment is a large time box, and it's made up essentially of 5 iterations, or you can make those synonymous in Scrum to sprints. So these 2-week iterations, 5 of them make up a program increment, and all the teams work in the same time box and the same cadence. Now, in order to organize all that and plan for all that, what Safe has is this 2-day event called Program Increment Planning. And Program Increment Planning it's facilitated by a role called the Release Train engineer. All the teams get together. Traditionally, it would be in a big room. Everyone would get together. There'd be like sticky note craziness going all over the place with string to basically visualize dependencies. But over time, we've gotten more into like this distributed PI planning. So we started introducing tools like Zoom for video, which you're on today, Slack or Teams for chat, Miro or Mural for things like digital whiteboarding, but also for managing the hierarchy of requirements, we could use a tool like Jira. So before we get into the solution demo itself, what I wanted to walk through quickly were the configurations that are just basically the prereqs to get the solution up and running. And what we did here was a single project, Jira project for an Agile Release Train. You could do multiple projects if you wanted to by team, but we did a single one, which will basically house all of the features or epics and all of the stories that those teams in that are working on. We have a art Scrum board, so it's a program board essentially. And what that does is it has all of the features that all the teams are working on, as well as a roll up of all the stories that all the teams are working on. And then what you have are individual team Scrum boards. So if you think about it in Jira, you could create a field, or you even use like a field like component, and you would have values for each one of your teams. And then those team boards would filter off of those values to pull in only their relevant stories and features. But all of that data would then collect and roll up for, based on a filter at the program level to that art board or program board. Okay. It's also important before you do your planning to have your sprints created, dated, and named. Ideally, you'll have a naming convention that you can use across all of your teams. Advanced roadmaps plan with all of the boards as input sources. And I'll show you the advanced roadmaps in just a second. For PIs, I use fixed version. So the fixed version release field is nice. It gives us a time box. And it also allows us for the opportunity to show milestone dates on the roadmap. And finally, we did some automation for Jira configuration, an automation rule. It's nothing but out of the box automation for Jira configuration, no add-ons. And we did that for way to short a job first. So I'll show you that in a second as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this and hide this one. All right. Okay, cool. So here we are in advanced roadmaps, and I have a plan set up here, and it's basic. It's using the basic view, so it's very high level basic view, and it's not grouped by anything at all. I am, for configuration sake, using the colors by my component field, because I'm using my component field for my team values. So you'll see team A, team B, and team C. My dependency styles, I could choose badges or lines. I'm doing badges for now, and I'm rolling up basically all of the dates and fields that can roll up. So,
okay. Sorry to break your flow here. Are you able to zoom in one on the browser there, just a little bit?
Better.
Yeah, that's better. If anybody, yeah. So that might be better. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. So you'll see on the left-hand side here we have the hierarchy. Now, Advanced Roadmaps offers the ability for an unlimited hierarchy. We're only using the epic to story or feature to story relationships because we're doing essential safe, but you could you could build upon that if you wanted to as you started scaling out your safe implementation. So you'll see my list of features here. So basically in PI planning, one of the inputs is the top 10 features off your program backlog. So I'm showing my top 10 features here. Obviously I have some data here and I put this in, just so we have some context that we can build upon. But you'll see I basically have my toggle for my feature to story breakdown. And now let's just walk through some of the fields you have in here. So you can add as many fields as you want to your roadmap. You can even add your custom fields if you wanted to as well. So you could start pulling in fields to tell your story. And ultimately you want to at least be able to provide at a minimum the information that you would get in your program increment board, which would be your traditional board that is the result and the output of your PI planning. Okay. Now, a traditional program increment board will be like a grid, and the swim lanes would be each one of your teams, and the horizontal columns will be each one of your sprints or iterations. We're replacing that with this advanced roadmap solution, which is just a different way to visualize it, and but it still gives you all of the data that you would need. So the first one's the release. So you see that I told you I'm using the fixed version field for releases. So I'm basically time boxing all of my features by my program increment 1. You'll see on the right-hand side here, I have my release for program increment 1. It's time boxed and I have it highlighted on my roadmap, okay? And on the left-hand side here, you'll see these arrows. And what that really means is that I have configurations at the story level that are rolling up. I told you we're gonna do some roll-ups, and that's one of the fields that does that. So I'm focusing on feature I right now. So you'll see I have that hard coded to PI1. And then the next one I wanted to show you is this WSJF. And basically what this is, and I'm going to go into one of my epics. So basically what it is, it's a way of prioritizing or sequencing your features, right? And it includes a bunch of different fields. And but it's not too difficult once you understand the basic calculation. So you have this idea of user business value, which is basically your relative value to the customer or the business. And then you have your time criticality, which is right here. And that's going to basically tell you like, how does the business value like decay over time? Or do you have like a fixed due date or deadline date for this particular feature? Risk reduction, it's also risk reduction and opportunity enablement. So are there any risks or are there any opportunities that would, that could affect when you work on this particular feature? So if you look at these three fields that I just talked about, those three added together make up what's called the cost of delay. And that cost of delay is the overall cost of delaying the delivery of that feature. And if you divide that by this job size, and this job size is basically the size or the duration of the feature development itself, it's going to calculate to what's called weighted shorted job first. It's one way you could prioritize features. It's in the Scaled Agile Inc.'s documentation in much more detail. But what we did here was we just created a loopback transition in the Jira workflow. And if you calculate it, it's going to give me a screen and it's going to give me all of those values. So if I just start adding some values in here, and let's say the job size is 5, okay? And I calculate the WSJF, it's going to fill in those fields. And then on the bottom here, it's going to automatically calculate my WSJF through automation and show me that value in the issue itself. So if I go back to my roadmap and I refresh, what it's doing now is it's actually pulling in that live data, and you'll see I have my WSJF field populated. So that's one way you can prioritize and sequence your features. Okay. Now, the teams and component field, I talk about these together because remember, I'm using the component field now to create and filter those team boards, right? I need a field that I can add to my filter to pull in the relevant data for that team. And I'm using the component field for that. I'm using the team field because this is a built-in field with advanced roadmaps, and it's given me the ability to leverage a lot of the rich functionality around capacity and so on, capacity and sprints. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And then the next one is my story points. So you'll see I have my roll-up of story points for each feature based on the story point estimates entered in the story level. I have my sprints rolled up as well. I'm going to show you the view that I like to use for sprints. Start date and due date is based off of the sprint dates. And then I can add my assignee in here, and then I put status and progress. So progress is nice because you can actually hover over it and see the completed points and remaining. What I really like about this view here is that I can use this for my planning. And once I'm ready to write this data to Jira, I can just go in here, review the changes and write it to Jira. And then what I get here is now basically a status progress report of what's going on in my PI and how it's progressing along with the development of my features. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create some stories. It's super simple. Under feature I, I'm going to click the ellipsis and go to create story. Now, keep in mind, this is not creating the stories in Jira yet. I still have to review the changes and write them to Jira. And I'll show you what that looks like at the end when we're ready. So I'm just going to create 5 of these things. All right, and you'll notice that I have this yellow bar down here and I don't have any issue keys here, again, because the issues are not created yet. You'll see what it's doing is it's populating this change log of all of the changes that I'm making in the advanced roadmaps. I select which ones I want and then I write them to Jira. Okay, so it's pulling in live data from Jira, but I have to manually push it to Jira, the changes. Okay, so the next thing I do is I update my teams for my team field for all this. So I'm using team A and team C to work on this feature. So I'm just going to start adding some component fields to my teams for this. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side here, and you'll see it's going to roll up. So I'm going to make this one C. So this will be all part of that planning effort. A and A. All right. And then now I got my team assignments. I got all of that done. And what I want to do next is I want to estimate these as a team. So I'm going to go into my story points and I'm just going to start estimating as teams. So I'm just going to do this really quickly. 5, say 8, and we'll say 3. Oops, not 83. 3 and 5. Okay. And you'll see it rolled it up to 21 story points right there. All right. So now I want to do my sprint assignments. So my sprints within my PI, I want to start assigning these stories to an iteration. I know what teams are going to be working on them, and I need to be able to see their capacity as to when we're going to work on these things, as well as are there any dependencies on these individual things. So I'll show you what that looks like now. I go into my my views, and I could change this to sprint capacity. And in sprint capacity, you see I have the breakdown of my teams, and I have each one of those sprints, those 5 sprints within that program increment. Now you'll see this little this fill line here, and this is basically showing me how much of my allotted and available capacity am I allocated for that sprint. So if I click on any one of these, you'll see it gives me 44 or 50 points are allocated, 88% full. Now I can change this sprint by sprint depending on maybe someone goes on vacation, whatever the case may be. Is when I'm doing my estimations, I can go in here and I can make that edit. So you'll see it turns red when I'm over allocation. So I just click there and you'll see I'm 63 over 60. I'm at 105%. I can change this if I know I can finish it and I want to estimate it there, and it's going to show me I'm 63 or 63. It's going to turn green. And then you get that information right there. So I'm going to go into team A and I'm going to go into team C because they're the ones I assigned feature I. So if I go into team A's, I got 1A and 1B right here, right? And I'm looking here at my availability, and I'm going to basically put these in sprint 3 based on what I want to do. So sprint 3, and there you go. And then I'm going to do the same thing for team C, and maybe I'll put these in sprint 4 because I have a dependency here. So I'm going to go ahead and assign these to sprint 4 and 4 and 4. All right. And maybe I have a dependency now between story IB and story IC. So I can easily just drag that over, and I can see my dependencies based on these badges right here. I can click on it and I can see my dependency. I can add dependencies here. I can show the lead time. I can also add a dependency by just clicking this and then typing in IC, and then give me that option. I do that, and now it's given me the dependency that way. I can also visually see the dependencies like I was showing you earlier by lines. That should work. Okay, that's a bug. It was working earlier. So yeah, so basically you'll see the dependencies within there as well. So I got that all done. I got everything estimated. I got everything ready to go. And now I just want to see, maybe I want to see all my dependencies collectively. So it has this dependencies report, which is nice. I can go in here and I can group it by team, and I can actually visualize my cross-team dependencies, which is great. And I can filter by individual issues if I wanted to see it that way as well. So a lot of different ways you can visualize data with this tool. But really for the purpose of PI planning, I want to have a visual that's giving me the data that I would otherwise get in a program increment board. So I can group this by release. And now you see this is my PI1 release because I'm using the fixed version field. And then I go ahead and I scroll down and you can see all of my data for that PI. I get all of the sprint data for that PI. I get the team assignments. So I get all that data that you would see in that horizontal intersecting grid. But I also get, in addition to that, all the story point estimation. I get the WSJF for my features. I get start date and due dates. I get assignees if I want to add those. And I get progress as well. So that's really nice. So those are additions you would get based on your PI planning. Okay. I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but if you have questions, just please enter them in the chat, and we'll answer them as with all the time we have at the end, and we'll make sure we answer as many as we can. All right. So when I'm done, I go to this review change log, okay? And you'll see I have my list of changes, and for each one of these issues, I basically updated 6 or 7 fields. And so it's gonna show you every bit of those changes. And I can select which ones I want, and you'll see it even shows me that change in capacity for that individual sprint that I changed. So I go ahead and save the selected changes. It's gonna take a second because it's creating issues actually in Jira. And then once that's done, all those changes that I did in my planning will now be written to Jira. So I had my PI planning. I wrote everything to Jira when I was happy with my plan. And now I basically have what would be synonymous to your PI planning board right here that I can use for as a source of truth for who's working on what in what sprint, what the dependencies are across teams, and just all that data that you would need. Okay. So that's how you would do it in the advanced roadmap. Now for reporting, there's a lot of out-of-the-box Jira reports. This is before we get into dashboarding with what Tom is going to show. But there's a lot of out-of-the-box Jira reports that you can use to help, just really tell that story. And you can do it at multiple levels, which is super nice. So I remember I'm doing my boards. I'm configuring my boards at the program level for the entire Agile Release Train, and I'm configuring my boards for each individual team as well. So what that allows me the ability to do is show reporting for all of the data collectively rolled up for the Agile Release Train, as well as the data only for individual teams. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I go into this report, now this is a board in another project I have for the entire Agile Release Train. So it's pulling in every team's bit of data, and it's showing me my burn down for sprint 9 across all of my teams, okay? Now I could do the same thing for the iOS team, because I'm using the iOS team board, and I'm only filtering the data for the iOS team, and I'm just showing the burn down of that team only, okay? You could see the same thing with a burn up. So you see I have a burn up here for the entire Agile Release Train for sprint 6. And you can see I get that scope line. So I get that change in scope right there on May 17th. And that is for all the teams. Again, sticking to the same theme, you'll see it now only for the iOS team for sprint 6. The other report that I like to show is the velocity chart. So I can see my velocity, basically my commitments and my completion of story points over time over my sprints for the entire train. And I could see my collection of story points over sprints for only my iOS team. All right. The last two I'll show you are basically you have this, that's epic burn down. There you go. So you have this release burn down. And remember, I'm using fixed versions for my program increments. So this tells a really nice story because I'm looking at my release burn down for PI1. And this is actually the burn down for the entire Agile Release Train across all the sprints in the PI. So it's showing me sprint by sprint that burn down for the entire Agile Release Train. And I can get the same thing for only iOS team. So it's a super powerful report, I think. And you get the same thing with an epic burn down. So remember, epics are features. So maybe you want to see the feature burn down within, over sprints, and you can see the burn down across all the contributors of that. And then you can also see it for only the iOS team. So that's the basic story you could tell with the out of the box reports, but it doesn't tell everything. And with that, I wanted to turn it over to Tom, so Tom can show you some reporting dashboards and some of the functionality he has with his tool. So Tom, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, it says, unfortunately, I can't start my video, but I'm here waving. It says the host has stopped it, so I don't know if you can turn that on, but otherwise you can just hear my voice. Okay, so
there you go.
Hopefully I can't share as well, so I don't know if you're the host.
Patrick, can you make him a host?
All that, sorry.
That's okay, then I'll better turn my camera on and share as well. Okay, so thanks very much, Evan. That was great to go through and see everything that's possible about putting data into Jira. So let me just put my camera on. There you go.
There you
Hello.
go. You're now.
Okay, great. So that as I say, a lot of that was about how to put data into Jira, how to structure the data, how to manage your teams and plan. It's all the preparation and the input side of it. What I'm going to talk about now is how you can get some of the outputs, some more information from that in the form of dashboarding and reporting. Now, Evan's gone over a few details then, went through one of the reports that's built into the projects. And I'm going to go through a nice dashboard that we have that shows all of this data in a lot of detail. And then I'm going to go through an example of how you can build it yourself, and then talk specifically about the app custom charts, which we're using to make a lot of these reports, and show you in a similar way to Evan just did with the advanced roadmaps, how to actually build up these reports yourself, so you've got some tangible takeaways from this. Okay, so I'm just going to start sharing my screen there. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Let me just get set up with a few things. Okay, great, cool. So here is a dashboard that I created with Evan to display the data and the concepts he's just been talking about. So on Jira, as hopefully lots of you know, but dashboards is a very prominent feature, and it is directly from the main toolbar, so it's really easy for anyone to use. In terms of the dashboards themselves, they have quite a lot of customization and can have add-ons and gadgets from lots of different places, which means they're a very versatile thing. Unlike the reports that Evan showed just before that were only in a single project, this can pull in data from lots of places, from anywhere, and display it to anyone that you want. So here we go. So we've got some information here about the number of days remaining in the sprint. We've got the sprint burn down, which is similar to what was just shown, but this, as I said, is on a dashboard, so it can pull in data from lots of different places. In terms of that, we get most of this is around sprints and agile information. So this is showing you the overall sprint progress, telling you like the amount of time elapsed, and all of these are built-in gadgets. So everything you're seeing here comes with Jira, and I'll show you how to build this up afterwards, but this is how you get started. Okay, a version report as well. This will tell you when different versions were released and expected dates. So again, gives you nice trends over time, and you can see if you're on track for releases and the predicted completion date, pessimistic, and the hopeful version. Okay, so here are some reports that come, like I said, out of the box. Now we're going to move on to some custom charts reports and go through why they're useful and how you can benefit from building them yourselves. So here we go, we've got some tar charts here, and all of this data is, you can drill straight down into it. So this is looking at the a sequence of story points. You can see how many issues have, in this case, each number of story points. If you want to look at these 5 issues that have 13 story points, because maybe that seems quite big, you can just click straight into that, and that will load the Jira issue page, and you can actually see, well, maybe these are a bit big, could we break them down? And it gives you visibility of that directly on the chart, which is nice because lots of people get that visibility. And then you also, just come back to here, lots of people get that visibility, and you can also see it live and update all the time. So you can have this auto refreshing every 5, 10, 20 minutes, every hour if you want, just so that this information is always up to date. And you can export the data directly from here if you want, so you've got a copy of that as well. In terms of the versatility of the reports, you can show different things. So this is showing you the number of story points assigned, for example, to each component, the components that Evan was just showing on the advanced roadmap. So he was displaying them there on the roadmap. This is how you can get different visualizations from that. So this is story points related to each component. I know that one of the questions has just said, is there anything related to each developer? And the answer is, well, yes, you can have the number of story points assigned to each, where the assignee is each developer. So that's what you can do with the different custom charts to visualize the data. Similarly here, you've got the story points per team per sprint. So you can see that, again, the components broken down, and we can see that for each sprint, how many story points were assigned to each component in each sprint. Fairly standard information. It's quite nice to look at. That's the point of this visualization, is that it's pretty and should be consistent. So the idea is that you can select, for example, here, you could select the same colors on each one to make sure they match up, and then you can get that consistency across your reporting. Again, here, more information, different chart types, showing similar things. This is to do with a group bar chart. So again, you can see this data just displayed in a group bar chart there. And looking down, we can see created versus resolved. Now, this is showing it just over time, just as a snapshot, but we can also do cumulative charts as well to see how that's trending. Again, different 2-dimensional tables and 2-dimensional arrays. So what I'm going to do now is say that this was custom charts based on the data Evan showed, but let's look at what we can do with that data ourselves. So yeah, so what I'm going to show you now is how to build these dashboards. So to start with, we're going to add in this case, we're going to add the version report, the ones that you saw there. And this is the version report, and we're going to do this for, and this is showing you the built-in reports. This comes straight with Jira. You can do this yourself right now. We're going to look for the web and mobile, and there's not many options. We could show the board names on that if you want to see it, and then we save it. So there you go. So that's pulling the data straight in. It's really quick and easy to do. There's not much / any customization, but it's pretty nice to see. It's great that you can have that so quickly, and it's built in. We'll do the same thing now with the burn down. You have to load all gadgets to get the sprint burn down. There you go. And we'll do the same thing again. We'll select the web and mobile there, and we can select specific boards and how often it refreshes. And again, there you go, you've got your information displayed here. So that's how you actually do the selections and pull the data in. So one of the key things about this is that the options are fairly limited. What you can do in terms of customization is not much, which is great for being quick, but also doesn't give you much flexibility. So let's look at custom charts now and see what the benefits are of using custom charts for Jira app. So I'm just going to make this full screen, and then we'll go through the editor. So the key thing here is that it's a full WYSIWYG editor directly in the dashboard. You don't have to go away and build the charts somewhere else with different configurations. You can do it directly on the dashboard. So let's get started and build this up now. So we're going to do this with the we're just going to select that project or multiple, and we're going to, in this case, look at status category, just to give us a real broad overview of this project and how it's doing. So we'll load the data in, and we can see there, that's the data. So we're going to rearrange this just to make it a bit more consistent. And again, it's nice that you can just simply drag and drop and change the colors to pull in the data exactly as you need it. There we go. And we're going to say status category. Okay, so we can put titles and have it displayed in dark mode exactly how we want. And then within a few clicks, we've got a fully customized chart that does exactly what we want. So if I drop this back down into side-by-side mode, you can see that the data is going to load there, and you've got exactly what you need. Now, rather than having to go onto multiple different gadgets, let's go through this again and look at how we can customize it to do a few more things. And then I'll show you how the real power comes in with something called simple search, where you can drill down into your existing charts. So I'm going to configure this again, and we're going to say, well, now we don't want this to be a pie chart. We're going to change this and make it just a standard bar chart. We're going to do this by assignee in this case. And we want to see all the issues. Now, the order, let's do big to small, so we can see that actually the majority of issues are unassigned. Maybe that's not relevant because the unassigned issues aren't what we want to see right now. So we're just going to hide them here by clicking hide segment. We didn't have to learn any custom JQL or do any complicated queries. We just clicked one button. And what's really important about this is that while the tool is easy to use and has a lot of flexibility and functionality, the learning curve is supposed to be really, really shallow. And the idea for this is that it's not going to replace your big reporting tools, EasyBI, Tableau, those big data solutions. What it does do is empower the individual users. Rather than having to spend days and weeks and months on training courses, trying to train your entire organization up to use these complex tools, or in the other case, just people not reporting on their data because they don't know how, this gives you the opportunity to give this tool to everyone and say, go build the reports you need. There's no danger of you causing any damage or hurting yourself, but you can build the reports you need. And that self-service is really powerful. It gives people the ability to self-serve their own reports, but it also gives admins their time back. If you are able to build those complex reports in Tableau, EasyBI, then you don't have time every day to change the color of the marketing team's pie chart, for example, or the development team's charts. So they're missing out on that. Whereas if you can do it, they can do it themselves. There's a huge advantage. So let's see a few more things here. So we've got the different color options. We can also add descriptions directly to the charts. And I'll show you that here, where I can say, we could add an expand section and say more information here. And then what we're going to do also is just change this to, we're going to change this to the story points, and we're going to look at the average story points here. And I'll just save this so we can see, okay, great. So now, change the title, but you can see that this has got a description section here where we can look at information and have information about the charts if you want to explain it, which is these are kind of lacking. And again, reports, they're supposed to be easy to make, but it's all about how easy it is to consume the information. And if you can't put all the information directly on the chart, because you don't want it to be overwhelming, but you want some information to be available when people look at it for the first time, maybe, or once a month. The fact you can just have the description with a WYSIWYG editor rather than having to custom code it means that it's really powerful. Looking at the average here, you can see the average number of story points per user for this project. For this signee, you can see it's actually fairly even, which is great. If you could see some big discrepancies, some individuals maybe that had really large story points. And okay, we saw before that we had a tile chart here that was displaying the largest story points. So what we could do is, well, let's build that ourselves, and we're going to build that side by side, and then show how we can effectively connect them together, so we can actually drill down into the exact information we want and make sure it works for us. Okay, so I'm just going to edit this and just get rid of the title so it's not confusing. Okay, so there you go. So you've got that information there. We're going to go to the tile charts here. We're going to grab the same project, and we're going to do chart by story points by issues. And this is showing us here the numbers of story points, and we can do this here, build the numbers up. Again, drag and drop. So 3, 4, 5, 8, and the big one there. So that's for 5. So when I save this, it's going to be the right size. And yep, that's everything we need for now. So there you go. So that's how you would start this, and now you've got the information side by side. So if we wanted to see if someone, particular user, what their spread of, for example, their spread of story points would look like, we can add something called simple search. Now this is part of custom charts, simple search, and it's a separate gadget. We're going to add that to the dashboard there. And what this is a full issue searcher and editor. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just select the project as the source. We have a bunch of other options that we can fully customize. We can do things like add save filters as buttons directly as toggles. We can add custom JQL directly here, but for now, we're just going to keep it simple and leave it as it comes. Consistent, and there we go. So this has a reference ID. You see FF8 there. I'm going to save this. Now, these charts right now have a source that is simply selecting the project. But if we go down to the source and select simple search gadget, you can see FF8 is here. It's also here as well. So we connect that together, and we'll do the same for this one. We're going to change this to simple search gadget, and now it's a dynamic search. So I'm just going to save these two. And there we go. So nothing changed as far as we can see, but now it's going to be powerful and really useful. So let's go for the assignee now and look for Evan. So we want to look for Evan, and it hasn't updated yet, but if we click search, you can see now that that's the breakdown. And we can drill down, and we click on this, it'll take us just to Evan's issues with, in this case, 5 story points, because that's all he has. And that is the real power, the fact that you can build up these complex reports and have it easy to use. So now anyone can come along and select, if they want to select different criteria, they could add other fields and other options in this context here, and they'll be able to filter on those charts. Okay, so let's look at a production example that I use on our support desk, so that you can just see it working in a bit more detail. So here we have all of these charts. Everything you see here is custom charts. So all of these bar charts, all of these different charts available. This is the cumulative created versus resolved that I was saying about before. So you can see that there, the different child charts. This is a chart by hour, so you can see each issue updated by hour over the last 24 hours. So every single one of these, all of these charts is connected to this simple search here. So if we want to filter, and this is live data, so if we want to filter just on custom charts, well, I'm going to click there, and we can see the JQL query if we're interested in what actually that means, what we've done. But we're just, as a normal user, we're going to come along and say, cool, I really want to look at support issues for custom charts, and I'm going to click search. And now it takes a second because there's so many charts on this dashboard, but you're going to see all of them are going to update now. And they're all going to reload the data, and they're going to pull through, and there you go. Now, all of them have updated with this new maximum 658 issues. That's the total that have been found, and each one is displaying on the chart in different ways. So you can see here the general category. We've got a lot more requests for the Jira version of the app, but there are a few for Confluence. You can see the status broken down of all of those issues and where they are. We can see the breakdown. So at the moment, 62% of the issues raised for custom charts have been for cloud in our support portal, only 11% for data center. So these statistics we can pull out really quickly just using this simple search. And because it's dynamic and updating, we can constantly have this feedback, which is great for users who just want to pull up the dashboard and not have to create big, necessarily monthly or even weekly reports. This is daily, hourly, minute-by-minute reporting. We can see here where the reports came from the portal, and different information around that. Again, you can see the updates and things like that. Okay, so that's how it's looks when it's used in anger, custom charts on a big dashboard there. I'll just go across now and talk about our interactive app playground. So for anyone that wants to have a look at this app and play with it themselves, the good news is that it's everywhere. So it's on Cloud Server and Data Center, Jira, and Confluence. So if you are using Jira, you can use custom charts. If you want to play around with it right away, then we've got this app playground. So you just come to this link, which we'll put in the chat and send out after. Maybe I can do that now. And attendees. Okay, so there you go. That's the link, and you can come to here and you can play with this. Play with this examples dashboard. So this is a simple search connected, and it's a very British dashboard. So I'm going to search for the word tea, and it's going to go through and update all of these little charts here. And then you can drill down straight into that on this example dashboard and find that data for you. What's nice about this, though, is it has all the editors and a bunch of examples. So if you're looking at this app and thinking, well, okay, that's not quite my use case, or I want to know a bit more about it before I install it. Well, here you have the full editor directly on here. So you can play around with, for example, merging options together. If you want in progress and in review to be the same bar, for example, you can merge them together. You can rename them to things like work in progress. So you can have a fully customized chart and rename it however you want. If you wanted to group these users into teams and call this and call this, for example, team 1, you can do that. So even if you don't have admin access to Jira, you don't have the ability to do groups, and you want to just give anyone the ability to structure the data the way they want, this is a really simple way to do that, where anyone has the power to build the reports that they need. A few other neat features around this are the soon to be the templating feature, but there's the import export. So if you build a chart that you really like, you can simply click copy there, go to a different dashboard or copy that individual chart or save it for later. And then when you paste it in, when you click import, it's a full import. There you go, exactly as you had it. So you can save the configurations like that. There's a bunch of other things around calculations and things to do with time to resolution. You can do time between particular dates. So you could say, show me the number of, this is specifically for dates. So this, well, let's do time until. So you could say, show me the time until due date, and show me the average number of time, average time until due date, or for example, created date, time since created date. There you go. So there you go, the average time since created date. You can see that as well, and we can change different groupings. So we could say, let's look at this in days. So this is the average number of days since created, or the average number of months. So there you go. Definitely play around with all this. There's a bunch of display options you can look at. The cumulative total, if I refresh this, you can see this is using the cumulative total option. So on the chart we had before, it was showing the data like this, where you can start to see trends and see, okay, well, the number of created is increasing faster than the resolved. So something to be aware of. Okay, that was pretty much everything I want to go through on the demonstration side of custom charts as an app itself, and also in the context of SAFe and how it can be used. So I will
Thank you, Tom.
pause there and say thanks very much, and let's go for some questions.
I've started clicking and allowing everyone to unmute themselves if they want to ask a question. So that's available. And I know Evan has been typing answers to individual questions on the back end. So if we need to go back to what he's showing or stay on the custom chart side or what have you, we'll let the greasy wheel get the, or no, squeaky wheel get the grease. That's what it is. So go ahead and speak up if you have a question.
I'm just reading through some of the questions that were answered.
I tried to answer everything that was in the Q&A.
So one thing about the Q&A was asked about the team field. So the team field, as Evan has said, the team field doesn't work well with reporting in general, but it does work well with custom charts because we've specifically made the team field, the advanced roadmaps team field, work really well with custom charts. So you can report on that and use it directly as one of the fields. So that is a really good feature.
That's awesome. So we have about like 13 more minutes. Are there any other questions for us?
One
came in. You guys time back. One came in through the chat. Let me see.
Yeah, I had a question once from business as to how they can see how much they pay per hour to each contractor versus how much they work per hour in a sprint. Is there any chart that can be built like so?
Yeah, so with reports like that around time management and resource management, it can be very difficult to achieve the accuracy that you want or the granularity that you require from either the built-in tools or even a general tool like custom charts. Custom charts is trying to cover a lot of bases and also be as simple to use as possible, whereas something like that that's doing effectively resource planning and comparison, while roadmaps advanced roadmaps can help a lot with that. There are other add-ons, for example, like Tempo Planner and Tempo timesheets that can do really good resource management as well. So there are some solutions that you can shoehorn and fit into everything, but if you do have a specific requirement, it's better to look for tools that are designed specifically for it if that's what you need.
Yeah, I would just add to that too. One of the tools is Tempo Budgets that does some of that budgeting that you might be looking for. It's not available in cloud though, so that would be the only downside.
Yeah, the Tempo family, definitely have a look at what's available there because they have a bit of crossover in the different tools, but a dedicated tool for something like that, if that's what you need, would probably be best.
What else? Cool. Give it another minute in case anything bubbles up.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just reading through all the questions that we had answered. Yeah. Brilliant. So I guess a lot of this. Yeah, sorry, go for it.
Yes, on the example that you were showing on the left side towards the bottom, there was a gadget that just had like names of, I guess, your different products.
Yes.
What was the purpose of that gadget?
So that gadget, that was a request from a customer. They said, we really just want big buttons to click on. And we said, okay, we can do that. So if you see here, it's actually just it's the tile chart gadget, hit this one, with all the numbers turned off. And essentially, they just wanted big buttons to click on so that they could jump to it and say, okay, well, show me everything custom charts with Jira. If the button is here, it means there's something behind it. So they didn't necessarily want to see the number of issues or the number of story points. They didn't need to see the number 6 or 3 or 1. All they cared about was that the button was there to click on. So that's what they wanted.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think there was a request to unmute. So yeah, my question was about rolling up the story points. So I think somebody answered in the chat that these are available only in the advanced roadmap. So can we persist those values if we want? I want to know if all the story points add up to say, and then those stored in the epic level.
Yeah, I answered that question. So the view that I showed you is only in advanced roadmaps. There are other apps out there that would do that roll up right within the epic. I think it's still called sum up. Is that right? Tom, do you know?
Yeah, it does the roll up directly on the
Yeah.
roadmap. Yes, you can see.
Yeah. And it'll do it directly right within the epic. So you look in the epic, it'll show you the roll up of story points as well as progress for that epic.
Okay.
But advanced roadmaps view is really clean because you can hover over that progress bar and you could see all of it live right there for everything.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that if anybody want to see at individual epic level, then they have to go to portfolio view or the advanced roadmap. At individual issue, they cannot check it, right?
Unless you buy that other add-on or some other add-on that might do it that we were talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, there's a question for you when we're done with this one right in the chat, in the Q&A. Did that answer your question though?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
good.
This weighted short job faster WSJF, is this the field available only in the Jira Cloud Jira version or on the enterprise server level also it is available?
No, these are custom fields that we just built the automation in the back end for. So you can build that in cloud or server or data center.
Oh, okay. I thought these are provided in the newer versions, but these are the custom field,
Nope.
I believe. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, so the question
Go ahead,
was
Tom,
on where do the reports come from? So be remiss if I didn't say that custom charts is an add-on directly from the Atlassian marketplace. So you can install it here for any version of Jira, and it's also available in Confluence as well, which is quite nice if you want to be able to display your reports in Confluence. There's the option for that as well. So this is where it comes from. So yeah, it's got this companion app, so you can display the reports on Confluence pages, which may be where people want to consume the data. They don't want to always come to Jira dashboards. Confluence pages is an option there as well. Okay.
Sweet. I don't see anything else in the chat. Is there anything else in the Q&A? Let's see. Tom, you just answered that one, so that's good. All right.
Yeah, I'm glad we're able to answer everyone's questions then.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have any other questions, Patrick, I think you're going to send out a follow-up with the recording, right?
I will. Yeah, along with both of your with the contact information that you guys are agreeable with.
Sure. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Truly appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.
Great. Right, thanks everyone.
Thanks Patrick. Thanks Evan. Cheers guys.
Thanks everybody.